You may receive a plenary indulgence, which means you get off the whole of the time due to you in purgatory, or a partial indulgence, which say 300 days, which means 300 days off your period in purgatory, whatever days in purgatory may be. And so an enormously complicated bank whereby people can settle their heavenly accounts. By using credit, who were, of course, producing surplus goods like machines. So now, this is why I made in the earlier part of this seminar such a big point about human so that you know that it's good. In the words of the Taoist sage Chuang-Tzu, those who speak of having good government without its opposite misrule, those who speak of good behavior without the presence of its opposite bad behavior, do not understand. They believe that God implanted in the human heart at the beginning of creation, when he very first made Adam, something called the Yetzer Hara, or the wayward spirit, because he knew that if that wasn't there, human life would be insipid and without the least significance. There has to be this element. And so, see at one level that the evil side of things is part of the total harmony. It must be there. But that the function of its being there is to give you something to chew on, to work at. You will never get rid of it. But the joy of life is being in we have a world where people are not committed to drudgery. We shall discover social evil in some new form. It's exactly the same as when you're worried sick about money. Are you going to make a payment to someone else or the car or that? You think you're going to have a lot of money. quite fervently about something else. Because you see, we are always really in the same place. This is the basic understanding of relativity. It always reminds me of Sir Frederick Harvey when asked about his life. So you see, when I would say one of the great philosophical questions is, are we going to make it? That all beings at every scale whatsoever, from the angels and gods at the very highest development of evolution, down to the most obscure little small creature form, all feel about life the same way. Are we going to make it? There's a very different kind of problem from the problem of the common world. But as Eckhart said, if a stone were as aware as an angel, a stone could be carried. Or perhaps a human. It is said in the holy text of Christianity that there are occasions upon which the ancient you see, the problem of life, at every level of evolution, the whole thing, it's always the same. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. The more it changes, the more it's the same thing. Because everybody's really in the same situation. The great dare. Are we going to make it? Well, this is the situation. When the Hindus say, God is so high to himself, and every now and then, the Brahman is to free himself. Deliberately falls into the illusion of Maya, and for them, this is all about. Well, that's about it. So, how far can I get that? Yeah, am I going to make it? And therefore, things are sometimes, that's the way of the God. We are aware. One of which is another. And the answer is no. You're going to get away with it for a while. Yeah, you'll get away with it for a while, but in the end, no, you're not going to make it. Oh, why not? Well, for obvious reasons. Look at a star. A star, great burst of fire. Well, the question is how far to go. Fire goes out and out and out and out and out. Then suddenly it begins to fade, the energy falls away and goes down. There's something that's there to reflect. The more tenuous form of the fire, which is light, is being thrown out to immense distance. But eventually light gets out. That's why some of the furthest galaxies are beginning to disappear. Because it's too far. Because if there isn't a point, you see, where the light gives up, or the radiance gives up, it fills everything, and therefore has no way of realizing itself. because you can only realize light by the contrast of darkness. And that's why then you, as a ray that shoots out of the Godhead, will say, are we going to make it? In other words, how long a ray are you going to need? A long, long ray or a short one? Now some people think, well, if I'm only a short ray, it's not really a great success. I want to be a long ray. I want to live to I'm 90, beyond, longer and longer. Then you must listen to the Zen poem that says, in the scenery of spring, there is nothing secure, nothing insecure. Flowering branches, animalcules of the ocean. You see all these, there's a certain balance of length, there's a certain average which gives it a globular form, but many different lengths in the stems. So you see, are we going to make it? How far out can you get? This is always the question. But then you're not going to make it. So the ray finishes. We call that death. But you are actually not the ray so much as the source of it. That's what you are really. And the source doesn't vanish. See, the source is there always. It's shooting out, shooting out, shooting out. And then so then, if you remember that at every stage of the universe, whether you are up there with the gods, or whether you are down there with the what we call human refuse, you are basically in the same situation. But everybody is basically in the same situation for the reason that everybody is basically the divine being, working out the panorama of its life in myriads of different ways. And these differences of ways require spectra of many kinds. There's the spectrum of color. There's the spectrum of tone. But there's also the spectrum of orders of being. So that from the most minute animalcule, right up through all kinds of animals, through human beings of every grade, through the gods, you have a great spectrum. And just as at one end of the spectrum you have purple, and at the other you have red. Now look, what is purple? Purple is blue. Therefore, if we say that the beginning and end we want, if we say that the purple and the water are the very primitive forms of life, and the red, the most radiant. There actually, if you see the spectrum as a circle, so that when you get up, the only place to go down. Unless somehow we can go back into the white light and see. It's neither up nor down, neither good nor bad. So I think that one of the things which would be drawn is a circle of a circular spectrum instead of one that's stretched out on a tape. And that would tell something to people that no amount of words can convey. It would speak to the unconscious in us, to the depths of understanding that are much more subtle than our intellectual thinking. And everybody could see this everywhere. And it would convey the message about Ring Around the Rosy. As is said in the Chinese texts of Zhuangzi, what is the center of the circle? The center of the circle, the true center, is any point on this planet. Because it can start the circle and finish it. So there's a koan there. It says, Indra built a seamless tower. You know, when a sleeve has a seam, this is as it were where the cross begins and has to take it out. So, there's a seam. Now imagine there's a tower, but it has no seam. Indra built a seamless tower. Where did he begin? So, in nature, one has this seamless order, where every point on it is central, and therefore feels in the same situation, envying those above and pitying those below. And there is always a below. Maybe the most primitive animality imaginable have pity on you. So in the same way, to try and force the issue wears you out. And when you force a lot, you usually bend the key. So you jiggle gently till you find the right opening. So in the same way, anybody can make something done. Always jiggle to find the right moment to cut along. And then the day happens, this is the moment. None of it was forced. So therefore, the water force will give you the sense that your life is a flowing. The flowing is equally you and what is not you, or called not you. It's the process that's happening. And when you understand that, you'll stop asking questions about it. You will see that all asking of questions about it is, shall I say, tautological. You get explanations which don't explain. All explanations of what's happening call for further explanations, because big explanations have little explanations upon their backs to bite them. Little explanations have lesser explanations, and so ad infinitum. This is the analytic process that produces the atomic universe, the electronic universe, the protonic universe, and so on and so on. And if you go the other direction, you'll find the solar system in a galaxy in a system of galaxies, and then goodness knows what. Because obviously the universe, as it seeks to know itself, must run away from itself. As your eyes revolve when you turn to look at it. You are the universe. You are apertures through which it is aware of itself. Holes in the wall, as it were. And so as you look, now you see it, now you don't. It's very simple. So you'll find, therefore, that the big quest, what is it? What am I supposed to do? What is human destiny? Why are we here? These questions will slowly disappear, and that itself will be the answer. The answer will be this is why. This is what is going on that cannot be described, the Tao. The Tao is simultaneously departing and arriving. Always.
That's the meaning of the eternal now, eternal. Well then, to go with the watercourse is called by Lao Tzu Wu Wei. Wu means not, Wei has a complex of meanings, which can be action, striving, straining, doing, or best, forcing. Not forcing is Wu Wei. So he says, Tao Wu Wei, Tao does nothing, but nothing is left undone. In other words, Tao accomplishes all things without forcing them. And so therefore, when you master, that's the wrong word, because it has the idea of superiority. When you come to Wu Wei, by, as it were, coming down, you are working on the same principle as the Tao. And so this is likened poetically to the difference between a willow and a pine when it snows. The pine is a rigid tree, and the snow and ice piles up on the branches until they crack. The willow is a springy tree, and when the weight of the snow is on the branch drops, and the snow falls off and the branch comes up again. That's Wu Wei. Zhuangzi tells a lovely tale that a sage was wandering along the bank of a river near an enormous cataract. And suddenly, way up beyond the cataract, he saw an old man roll off the bank into the cataract. He thought, this is too bad, he must be old and ill and is making an end of himself. But a few minutes later, the old man jumped out of the stream way down beyond the cataract and went running along the bank. So the sage and his disciples went scooting after him. He said, this is the most amazing thing we ever saw. How did you survive? Well, he said, there's no special way. I just went in with the swirl and came out with the whirl. I made myself like the water, so there was no conflict between myself and the water. So in the same way, when a baby is in an automobile accident, you find often the baby is uninjured, because the baby didn't go rigid to protect itself. So likewise, when you learn to fall when you do that, you learn to curl up limply, and yet make your arms very heavy so that they flop with an immense thud on the floor. And that making heavy is again like water. And this absorbs the shock. So it isn't, you see, you must realize that the water course is not complete limpness, because water has weight and therefore strength. And that really all energy, the secret of Wu Wei is that all energy is gravity. We, as a planet, would, if we encountered some obstacle in space, there would be an enormous release of energy. The obstacle would feel that it was being hit by some colossal force. But the planet is falling around the sun. And the sun is falling around something else. The whole universe is falling. But since there's nowhere for it to drop, it's sort of not falling at anything. It's just falling around itself. Sometimes there are collisions. But everything's got so much space that they're very rare. Maybe the ones that didn't have space have been eliminated and became all the dust that's in the sky. But all energy is gravity. That's the secret of judo. It's really the secret, ultimately, of the puzzle of the relationship of gravity to energy. It's the real secret of E equals mc squared. So now, if you want, you see, to find an intelligent solution to a problem, the work is done with your brain. You have all the necessary intelligence inside this bone. Only most people never use their brains, they use their minds instead. And think that they use their minds like they use their muscles, that you constrain your head and work very hard with it as if it were a muscle to achieve a result. But it doesn't work that way. When you want to find out the answer to something, what you do is you contemplate it. You visualize your problem, your question, as well as you can, and then simply look at it. Because you don't try to find a solution, because any solution that comes in that way is liable to be wrong. But when you've watched it for a while, the solution comes of itself. And that is the way to use your brain. It works for you in the same way as your stomach suggests your food, without your having to supervise it consciously. But all our attempts to supervise everything consciously have led to things that aren't too good for our stomachs, and so forth. You know how it goes. So, the reason for that is quite simple. That conscious attention, employing words, cannot think of very much. We ignore almost everything while we're thinking. We think along a single track. But the world isn't going on along a single track. The world is everything altogether everywhere. And you just can't take that into consideration. There isn't time, but your brain can. Because the brain is capable of handling innumerable variables at once, whereas your conscious attention is not. Or rather, more strictly speaking, verbal symbols are not capable of handling any more than a one very, very crudely simple track. That's why we have to trust our brains. Because you see, we are much more intelligent than our understanding of ourselves. When a neurologist admits that he's only begun to scratch the surface of understanding the nervous system, he is actually saying that his own nervous system is smarter than he is. It's outwitted him so far. And that's remarkable. So you see, what you are is necessarily more than anything you can understand. For the simple reason that an organism which completely understands itself would be comparable to lifting yourself up by your own bootstraps or kissing your own lips. So there's always this element of the nothing or unknown in any process of consciousness or knowledge. And if that irritates you, remember, you are really addressing yourself to a stupid problem, because fire doesn't need to burn itself. any more than a light needs to shine on itself. So for light to ask, what am I? Although it sounds like a sensible question, isn't it? Because how could you answer it? Let me demonstrate this to you in another and perhaps simpler way. For many, many hundreds of years, human beings have wanted to know what is isness. What is matter? Substance. Obviously, it seems there must be a basis for all the shapes that we see. After all, clay is the basis of vessels. Iron is the basis of tools. Wood is the basis of furniture. But what is the basis of that? What is the substance common to everything? Well, we tried to find out. And that was the reason, at least in the beginning of things, why physicists tried to find out what matter energy is. Well, when you consider the problem, consider the question, ask yourself, what sort of answer are you looking for? Supposing you found out what matter is, in what sort of language would you be able to describe it? You realize that you couldn't. Because all that language can describe, whether the language be of words or of numbers, is pattern, form. We can measure form, we can outline it, we can explain it. But we couldn't possibly explain stuff. Just basic oomph. There would be no way of talking about it. Therefore, we're asking a silly question. We're asking for a question to be answered in terms which couldn't answer that kind of question. So therefore, we might say, you don't need really the idea of stuff, of matter, because what you've got is form, and I could say it's the form that matters in anything. You know, you take a double take on that. When you look at the world as form, you will not ask questions about what is it made of? What are these shapes made of? They're because they're not made. It says Dao Wu Wei, and Wu Wei means also not making. Making is different from growing. When a plant grows, it is not patched or put together. All the so-called parts of the plant grow out of it. Whereas when you construct a machine, you assemble the parts and put them together. This is not the way a plant works, not the way you work. When you eat your food, it is ridiculous to suppose that this is the raw material of parts which are going to be manufactured in a factory and distributed to screw on to different parts of your body. The silly in it. So, you don't ask, therefore, what are things made of? The next thing you don't ask is how do they go together? Because here becomes a very, very fascinating thing, that what we are unaware of is that so-called separate things are joined by space. We always think of space as separate, but that which separates also joins. That is why the word cleave is so important. It means to stick to and to divide. So we are cleft by space. When you look at a distant galaxy, we call it a nebula, because we are seeing it from a long way away. When, however, we get close to it, the nebula disappears, and we see individual stars. We are living in the middle of one. From a long way away, all the stars in our galaxy appear to be a thing. But right close up, we don't see that thing. What is it that keeps all these stars together? Oh, we say gravity. Gravity is a word for something. It means simply we don't know what it is. Like the ether that was once supposed to be the fluid through which light was transmitted and was discovered not to exist. That we could somehow do without it. That light went through nothing, through space. Marvelous, apparently. So, here are all sorts of things not joined to each other by strings, and yet they constitute a thing. And so when we get down to our own atomic structure, we are, if we were looked at closely enough, we would be like galaxies, with our atoms vastly distant from each other. What holds us together? Isn't that the wrong question? Because what matters is the form. It is your shape. Now, if I saw you some time ago, and I meet you again, how do I know you? If I recognize your shape. If I haven't seen you for some time, when I meet you the second time, there is nothing of you that I knew before. All your so-called substance has changed. Just as if I visit a waterfall, a few seconds later, you know, it's not the same water. It's falling the same way, the same style. And so in the same way, when I meet you today, yesterday, the day before, you're the same style, you're the same pattern, but it's all different. Huh. So that pattern can come to an end. And then after a while, it can happen again. Just as if you take a newspaper photograph and look at it under a magnifying glass, what you saw with the naked eye as a clean line will appear to be a series of dots. And the dots are alike one another. And there's no strings joining. Change your level of magnification and there's a line. You can magnify in time as well as in space. Only you do it a different way. To magnify anything in time, you speed up the time. So we take a fast motion picture of a being, and we put the being on Earth, and we expose one frame per day. And then when we run the movie, we suddenly see the beam moving. It puts out a little feeler, and the feeler goes, and all the stalks leave with, out comes the beam, and it eventually crumbles. Why, we saw a gesture. We saw a happening, which we would never notice with the naked eye. Too slow. Now that is, you see, magnifying time. Now, therefore, let us suppose we had human faces, thousands of faces, which suddenly began as little fetus cells, and we got some turn rapidly into baby face, into child, adolescent, adult, old person, skull and dust, going, all these faces coming and going, making their gesture of going through the whole lifespan. Well, we would watch and we begin to see patterns of continuity. Which things are moving much too slowly to see these, and things are moving too complicated to see them. But stand off at a distance, as it were, and you would see the same rhythms occurring again, 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 again. So that they would appear from that distance, or from time that speeded up, to be a simply continuity, like the continuity from here to here, which looked at closely is full of space. So you would get what we call in naive language the reincarnation of forms. You, considered as this kind of a wiggle that is recognizable, would happen again and again and again, with no spook traveling from one happening to the next. That wouldn't be necessary any more than it's necessary to have a line joining one dot in the press photograph with another dot, so that they will make continuous sense at a different level. You know, when you watch television, you're actually watching a moving dot. It moves so fast that it creates the image. Now let's supposing you had a different kind of eye altogether that had no memory in it. You would look at the television screen and you'd see this dot dancing all across and leaving no trace. You say, what kind of a funny thing is that? Oh, it doesn't make any sense. Seen in another way, see, all that picture makes sense. So you see, you don't have to, all these mysteries, like our reincarnation, you don't need any spooky knowledge to understand. It's all right out in front of you, and you will discover that as I talk to you. I'm not going to tell you a thing that you didn't already know. all this was plain to you. All I will do is put it in words in such a way that you will be able to say, well, that's what I always thought, but I could never explain it. I suppose you may think it rather nervy of me to devote this whole seminar to talking about nothing. But it's about space.
Bob, said the ghost. Yes, ghost, he replied. Bob is not real. "Greetings, welcome to my castle," replied Bob. The ghost just smiled.
Please welcome to speak to us the funniest man on earth, a performer of legendary comic genius, a children's book author of profound depth, an individual of enormous compassion who is doing so much to make our world a better place, the great Jim Carrey.
What are you sitting down for? I was gonna milk that for a while. You guys can stretch that out in post, right? You can make that longer in the edit. Thank you, Bevan. Thank you all. Jai Guru Dev. I brought one of my paintings to show you today. I hope you guys are going to be able to see it okay. It's not one of my bigger pieces, so you might want to move down front. Get a good look at it. Faculty, parents, friends, dignified guests, graduating class of 2014. And all the dead baseball players coming out of the corn to be with us today. After the harvest, there's no place for them to hide. Fields are empty. There's no cover there. I'm here to plant a seed today, a seed that will inspire you to move forward in life with enthusiastic hearts and a clear sense of wholeness. The question is, will that seed have a chance to take root, or will I be sued by Monsanto and forced to use their seed? Which may not be totally Ayurvedic. Excuse me if I seem a little bit low energy today, whatever this is. I slept with my head to the north last night. Oh man! Oh man! You know how that is, right, kids? Yeah. Woke up right in the middle of Pitta, couldn't get back to sleep till Vata rolled around. Crazy. But I didn't freak out, you know. I used that time to eat a large meal. Connect with someone special on Tinder. Because life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. How do I know this? I don't, but I'm making sound, and that's the important thing. That's what I'm here to do. Sometimes I think that's the only thing that's important, really, you know? It's just letting each other know we're here. Reminding each other that we're part of a larger self. I used to think Jim Carrey is all that I was. Just a flickering light, a dancing shadow. The great nothing masquerading as something you can name. Seeking shelter in caves and foxholes dug out hastily. An archer searching for his target in the mirror. Wounded only by my own arrows. Begging to be enslaved. Pleading for my chains. Blinded by longing and tripping over paradise. You didn't think I could be serious, did you? I don't think you understand who you're dealing with. I have no limits. I cannot be contained because I'm the container. You can't contain the container, man. You can't contain the container. I used to believe that who I was ended at the edge of my skin. That I had been given this little vehicle called a body from which to experience creation. And though I couldn't have asked for a sportier model, it was, after all, a loaner and would have to be returned. Then I learned that everything outside the vehicle was part of me too. And now I drive a convertible. Yeah, man. Top down, wind in my hair. Woo! I am elated and truly excited to be present and fully connected to you at this important moment in your journey. I hope you're ready to open the roof and take it all in. Okay, 4 more years then. They're obviously not ready. Just need some more cooking. Now, I want to thank the trustees the administrators, the faculty of MUM for creating an institution worthy of Maharishi's ideals of education, a place that teaches knowledge and experience, the knowledge and experience necessary to be productive in life, as well as enabling the students through transcendental meditation and ancient Vedic knowledge to slack off twice a day for an hour and a half. Don't think you're fooling me. But I guess it has some benefits. It does allow you to separate who you truly are and what's real from the stories that run through your head. You have given them the ability to walk behind the mind's elaborate set decoration and to see that there's a huge difference between a dog that is going to eat you in your mind and an actual dog that is going to eat you. That may sound like no big deal, but many never learn that distinction. And they spend a great deal of their lives living in fight or flight response. I'd like to acknowledge all of you wonderful parents. Way to go. What a fantastic job you've done. For your tireless dedication, your love, your support, most of all, for the attention that you pay to your children. I have a saying, beware the unloved, because they will eventually hurt themselves or me. But when I look at this group here, you know, I feel really safe. I do. I'm just going to say it. My room is not locked. My room is not locked. No doubt some of you will turn out to be crooks. But white-collar stuff, you know, Wall Street, that type of thing, you know, crimes committed by people with self-esteem. Stuff parents can still be proud of in a weird way. And to the graduating class of 2017, -3, you didn't let me finish. Congratulations. Yes, give yourself a round of applause, please. You are the vanguard of knowledge and consciousness, a new wave in a vast ocean of possibilities. On the other side of that door, there's a world starving for new ideas, new leadership. I've been out there for 30 years. She's a wildcat. Oh, she'll rub up against your leg and purr until you pick her up and start petting her, and then out of nowhere, she'll swat you in the face. It can be rough out there, but that's okay, because there's soft serve ice cream with sprinkles. I guess that's what I'm really trying to say here today. Sometimes it's okay to eat your feelings. Now, fear is going to be a player in your life, but you get to decide how much. You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here, and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it. Please. And if it doesn't happen for you right away, it's only because the universe is so busy fulfilling my order. Party size! My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant, And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job, and our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. It's not the only thing he taught me, though. You know, I watched the effect of my father's love and humor and how it altered the world around me. And I thought, that's something to do. That's something worth my time. It wasn't long before I started acting up. You know, people would come over to the house and they'd be greeted by a 7-year-old throwing himself down a large flight of stairs. They would say, "What happened?" And I would say, "I don't know. Let's check the replay." I'd go back to the top of the stairs and come back down in slow motion. It was a very strange household. My father used to brag that I wasn't a ham, I was the whole pig. And he treated my talent as if it was his second chance. When I was about 28, after a decade as a professional comedian, I realized one night in LA that the purpose of my life had always been to free people from concern, just like my dad. And when I realized this, I dubbed my new devotion the Church of Freedom from Concern. The Church of FFC. And I dedicated myself to that ministry. What's yours? How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. As someone who's done what you're about to go and do, I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Because everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart, and all that will be left of you is what was in your heart. My choosing to free people from concern got me to the top of a mountain. Look where I am. Look what I get to do. Everywhere I go. I'm going to get emotional because when I tap into this, it really is extraordinary to me. I did something that made people present their best selves to me wherever I go. I am at the top of the mountain, and I was, and the only one I hadn't freed was myself, and that's when my search for identity deepened. I wondered who I'd be without my fame. Who would I be if I said things that people didn't want to hear? Or if I defied their expectations of me? What if I showed up to the party without my Mardi Gras mask and refused to flash my breasts for a handful of beads? I'll give you a moment to wipe that image out of your mind. But you guys are so ahead of the game. You already know who you are. And that peace that we're after lies somewhere beyond personality, beyond the perception of others, beyond invention and disguise, even beyond effort itself. You can join the game, fight the wars, play with form all you want, but to find real peace, you have to let the armor go. Your need for acceptance can make you invisible in this world. Don't let anything stand in the way of the light that shines through this form. Risk being seen in all of your glory. it's not big enough. This painting is big for a reason. It's called high visibility. It's about picking up the light and daring to be seen. Here's the tricky part. Everyone is attracted to the light. The party host up at the top, who thinks unconsciousness is bliss and is always offering to drink from the bottles that empty you. Misery below her, despises the light, can't stand when you're doing well, wishes you nothing but the worst. The Queen of Diamonds, under him, needs a king to build her house of cards. And the hollow one down bottom there will cling to your leg and say, please don't leave me behind, for I have abandoned myself. Even those who are closest to you and most in love with you, the people you love most in the world, will find clarity confronting at times. This painting took me thousands of hours to complete. And when I was finished, thank you, thousands of hours, yes. I'll never get them back. I'll never get them back. I worked on this for so long. I was weeks and weeks like a madman alone on a scaffolding. And when I was finished, one of my friends said, this would be a cool blacklight painting. So I started over. Welcome to Burning Man. Some pretty crazy characters up there, but better up there than in here. You know? Painting is one of the ways, thank you. Painting is one of the ways I free myself from concern, a way to stop the world through total mental, spiritual, and physical involvement. But even with that comes a feeling of divine dissatisfaction, because ultimately, we're not the avatars we create. We're not the pictures on the film stock. We are the light that shines through. All else is just smoke and mirrors, distracting, but not truly compelling. I've often said that I wished people could realize all their dreams and wealth and fame, and so that they could see that it's not where you're going to find your sense of completion. Like many of you, I was concerned about going out into the world and doing something bigger than myself, until someone smarter than myself made me realize that there is nothing bigger than myself. My soul is not contained within the limits of my body. My body is contained within the limitlessness of my soul. One unified field. One unified field of nothing, dancing for no particular reason, except maybe to comfort and entertain itself. As that shift happens in you, you won't be feeling the world, you'll be felt by it. You'll be embraced by it. Now I'm always at the beginning. I have a reset button, and I ride that button constantly. Once that button is functioning in your life, there's no story that the mind can create that will be as compelling. The imagination is always manufacturing scenarios, both good and bad, and the ego tries to keep you trapped in the multiplex of the mind. Our eyes are not viewers, they're also projectors that are running a second story over the picture that we see in front of us all the time. Fear is writing that script, and the working title is, I'll Never Be Enough. Now you're going to look at a person like me and say, how could we ever hope to reach those kind of heights, Jim? How can we make a painting that's too big for our home? How do you fly so high without a special breathing apparatus? This is the voice
of the ego.
And if you listen to it, there will always be someone who's doing better than you. No matter what you gain, ego will not let you rest. It will tell you that you cannot stop until you've left an indelible mark on the earth, until you've achieved immortality. How tricky is this ego that it would tempt us with the promise of something we already possess? So, I just want you to relax. You know, that's my job. Relax and dream up a good life. I had a substitute teacher from Ireland in the 2nd grade that told my class during morning prayer that when she wants something, anything at all, she prays for it and promises something in return, and she always gets what she wants. Well, I'm sitting at the back of the classroom, you know, thinking, wow, my family can't afford a bike, you know. So I went home and I prayed for one. And I promised I would recite the rosary every night in exchange. Broke that promise. But 2 weeks later, I got home from school to find a brand new Mustang bike with a banana seat and Easy Rider handlebars. Yeah. From fool to cool. My family informed me that I had won the bike in a raffle that a friend of mine had entered my name in without my knowledge whatsoever. So that type of thing has been happening to me ever since. As far as I can tell, it's just about letting the universe know what you want and working toward it while letting go of how it comes to pass. Your job is not to figure out how it's going to happen for you, but to open the door in your head. And when the door opens in real life, just walk through it. And don't worry if you miss your cue, because there's always doors opening. They keep opening. And when I say life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, I really don't know if that's true. I'm just making a conscious choice to perceive challenges as something beneficial so that I can deal with them in the most productive way. You'll come up with your own style. That's part of the fun. Oh, and why not take a chance on faith as well? Take a chance on faith. Not religion, but faith. Not hope, but faith. I don't believe in hope. Hope is a beggar. Hope walks through the fire, and faith leaps over it. You are ready and able to do beautiful things in this world. And after you walk through those doors today, you will only ever have two choices: love or fear. Choose love, and don't ever let fear turn you against your playful heart. Thank you so much. Big Lou Dowd.